What's up, everybody? It's been a while, but I'm excited to be back filming something. And this video is pretty exciting because, yeah, you guessed it. We're talking about the Sony A7S III. So my wife and I just moved. We just have a bit more space and a bit more natural light, as you can see. I'm actually using completely natural light in this room, which is like honestly pretty sweet. I love that. It's so much easier than having to set up a light during the day because, you know, I just have so much light coming in through the windows that wow, that's way better. So yeah, I'm finally talking about the Sony A7S III. I have a lot of things to say about it. I've had this camera for about a month now, and it's not a very long time. The short period of time that I've had it, there are a ton of things that I've found improved on this camera as opposed to the A7 III that I've been using for like 4 years. It's so much easier to film on this camera. Like, there's been so many moments where I'm not sure if the exposure is right, but you know, when I'm looking at the zebras, everything looks fine. When I bring it back into post, it really does look fine, and like being able to like push it super far and still have a really good looking image is something that I'm not used to, because with Slog2 on the Sony A7 III, you really have to nail your exposure or else everything's gonna fall apart really quickly. And that is because of the first thing, the 10-bit codec. The difference in colors. There's been a lot of times where I'm filming in my house and my skin tone's getting kind of washed out between like the wall of the background because it's just like picking up all kinds of colors like greens and oranges, and it's just all sort of getting meshed. So if I'm like trying to adjust my skin tones, it'll adjust the background too. Like, it'll adjust the walls, it'll adjust like these chairs over here. Being able to have so much more color in the codec allows me to push my image in a way that I've never been able to do, and it just makes color grading and like editing the footage so much more fun and so much more like rewarding, because for the most part, every single image that I've shot has looked pretty sweet, you know, unless I've like heavily underexposed it. And that is also leading into the next one is Slog3. I thought Slog2 was really good with dynamic range, but Slog3 is just like, it's pushing it. I went to a mural festival and it was outside, it was daylight. You know, I made the mistake of not bringing an ND filter, and I was like, no. I mean, it wasn't a job, so I was just filming for fun, but you know, I just went ahead and shot some video, and you know, this is what the video looked like. And as you can see, I did have to push the aperture up to about f8. You know, it doesn't look that bad. I definitely lost a lot of depth of field, but that's like really the only thing that you lose. And in fact, you know, when you push it up, like, you are getting a sharper image. But being able to recover the highlights in these images without an ND filter and not having to push the exposure or the aperture all the way up to like f22 or whatever is it's nice. And it's kind of like, okay, like there's a lot of wiggle room with this codec and with this camera, and like with Slog3, it's so much easier than filming on Slog2. I got to film a dance festival a few weeks ago, and that was in Vancouver. It was bright out, it was hot. This was the first like big job that I had with this camera, and it honestly did so good. It made filming so much fun, and it made filming so much easier than if I was to use my A7 III because of all the mixed lighting scenarios. There was a lot of moments where it started to get dark out, and I actually just ended up pushing this camera's ISO up to 12,800, which is the second native ISO, which is just insane. So I was able to push it all the way up there, and the image looked just so clean. If you look at some of the footage here between the A7 III and the A7S III, these are shot at the exact same moment. You can really tell the difference in grain, the difference in color, the difference in just how much the A7 III footage is just like falling apart because it's starting to get dark. It made editing such a breeze because I was like, oh man, like I don't have to push these images very far to make it look good. Also, I was filming at one point like in the direct sunlight for about 45 minutes, filming just like performances the whole time. I was sitting there, I was absolutely dying. My knuckles were like getting burnt, my legs were getting burnt from the sun. And this camera was like, I could barely touch it because it was so hot. And I also had a cage around it, which made it worse because then I couldn't touch the metal of the cage. I didn't have a single problem happen with this camera. Like, it didn't overheat, and I would film from like up to 20 minutes at a time. This camera never gave me the warning that it was getting too hot. Nothing ever shut down, nothing ever glitched. I didn't lose any footage, nothing went wrong. It was just, the camera was hot. Another thing that I really like about this camera are the ergonomics. I just feel like the buttons are so nicely placed. They feel good in the hand, like pressing them feels nice and squishy. There's nothing like mechanical that feels about it. It's hard to explain, but like going from the A7 III to these buttons and these dials, like everything just feels nicer. It feels like more fluid, more like clicky, more nice. I really like the flip out screen. I don't have to set up my monitor. Like, I'm actually just looking at the flip out screen right now. I'll just quickly, so look, I literally just have the flip out screen right here and I'm filming myself. It's a little awkward getting used to it, but I do like it. It does come in handy a lot of the time, especially when you're doing any type of vertical content, because you can just flip it out, film that way, and you don't have to like look down at the screen and like break your neck doing that. I did notice that the flip out screen does kind of knock into the ports though, like especially the headphone jack. You can't turn the screen all the way, which kind of sucks. I don't know why they designed it that way, but I know a lot of people have seen this, and I think that they've fixed it on the FX3. If that is like a deal breaker for you, if you wear headphones a lot with your camera, I would really consider the FX3 over the A7S III, just because of that one thing might piss you off a lot. The menu system's better. It's just more fluid. You can use the menu screen in touchscreen mode too, which is so nice. You can navigate through it with your fingers. I really didn't like the floppy ports of the A7 III. They kind of just flipped and flopped everywhere. These ones just like stick out nicely. They stay in place. Also, having a full-sized HDMI cable is also, I really like the customizable buttons. Like, I love that there's 3 different options. And so what I usually do is I'll set number 1 for 4K 24p, I'll set number 2 for 4K 30, and then I'll set number 3 for 4K 60. So I just have like all 3 options that I can quickly switch between. I love the different codec options, and I love that there's a more compressed codec. I shoot on XAVCS, and the file sizes are not that much bigger than the A7 IIIs. Like, it's still shooting at 100 megabits per second, which I know a lot of people might think is really small. I personally don't really see a huge difference. I've done tests between the Ninja and the XAVCS on this camera, and I can't notice a difference. I just think that the codec on this camera is so well developed that you really don't need a Ninja anymore. You know, unless you're like an advanced colorist and you really need that extra little push of the color, or you have a slower computer and you actually need a less compressed file, by all means, you can use a Ninja, or you can use the XAVCS-I. I just wouldn't recommend that because the file sizes are absolutely massive, and you have to buy CF Express Type A cards, which are just abysmally, I'm saying all kinds of words that I don't think exist. They're so expensive. And the nice thing about XAVCS is that you can use V30 cards. Like, I have V30 cards because of my old camera. I can still use V30 cards and shoot 4K 60 on here. What can I say about the autofocus? It's amazing. The focus tracking is sick. Being able to use the touch screen to click aside. It's just, you know, if I move forward, it's like, what's up? Move back. So having the eye autofocus is really nice. It's always going to be tack sharp on the eye. There's a lot of things that I really like with this camera. The eye LCD quality is like amazing. It's so much better than my old camera. As soon as I put my eye into it, I was like, whoa. I love the sound of the shutter. How do you say it? Here are some things that I'm not a huge fan of so far. I really don't like the exposure compensation dial. I've never used it before. I think it's helpful if you are shooting a lot of vlog content, but I don't really shoot vlog content, or I don't use auto ISO. So I would rather it not be there. I like how the A7 IV is just like, it's a third dial that you can use for whatever you want. I would have rather had that. I also don't really like that the exposure compensation dial is a click. So you click it and to lock it in, and then you click it again to unlock it, and you can turn it. But then the mode dial, which I use literally all the time, is one of those ones where you have to like hold the button down and then turn it. And so you got this little like finger chest, you got this little finger Tetris thing that you're doing where you're pressing it down, you're trying to turn it, fingers just like getting in the way of what I'm trying to see, so I can't even see what I'm clicking to. So sometimes I'll click to the wrong thing and I'm like, dang it. On my A7 III, I had the 2 customizable options, and then there was the manual button right underneath. So I just had to click right to manual if I wanted to shoot photos. But this one, the manual is a few clicks away, and it's a little bit annoying because if I'm shooting like on the third one, like 4K 60, and then I want to shoot some photos, I have to literally turn the dial all the way 90 degrees just so I can get to photos. It kind of sucks because the A7 IV came out and they have the little like click thing that goes straight from video to photo, and you can have your own settings. I don't really like the record button placement. I know that they put it on top and it's a nice big button. I don't really like that. Like, it's kind of, if I'm shooting here, it is actually kind of nice to be able to touch it like that. Any other way, like if I'm filming, like it's kind of awkward to press with my fingers. So it really is actually still a good photo camera. Even though it's only 12 megapixels and I can't crop in that much. That's literally the only problem, is that you can't crop in a whole lot. But the photos look amazing. They still look incredible. So I still use this camera as a photo camera whenever I don't want to bring around 2 cameras. The reason why I got this camera was because I felt like my life was going more towards video. It's more like 80 to 90% video now and 10% photos, which the photos in my life are less like the main work and more like complementary work in my life. I've been enjoying it a lot, and I just feel like the image quality is so good on this camera that I'm not gonna need another camera for a very long time. Yeah, I hope that my content will just continue to be upgraded because of this camera, and that's kind of the hope. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you got something from this video or it was helpful at all. And also don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It really helps me out. I'm excited to make some more videos in my new place, and hopefully I can make some more consistent content from here on out. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.